the show that keeps you ahead of the global curve. A conversation you'd want to be a part of.
A place where news becomes an engaging exchange.
We bring you stories that impact your present.
This is World DNA.
Join the conversation.
WION, India's global voice, the channel that brings you the biggest stories from across the world through India's lens. Now available in more than 190 countries worldwide. Because we believe that the world is one. Watch us in Africa, Europe, USA and Canada, South America, Asia Pacific, Middle East and North African regions. Also available on these digital platforms across the world. WION. World is one.
Good morning, Asia. Good evening, America. You're watching World DNA with me, Hemkaur Saroya.
And I'm Diksha Bisla, and on the show today, Harvard University has got a temporary relief in its tussle with the Trump administration. A US judge has extended an order blocking the administration from barring Harvard University from enrolling foreign students. We're going to get you all the details on that front on the show today.
Also on the show today, India has called on Dhaka to hold early, inclusive and fair elections. And this comes against the backdrop of demands by political parties for holding elections by December, as well as widespread protests. What's happening on ground, we'll bring you all the details on the show today. First, let's take a look at the headlines.
Hamas says a new Gaza ceasefire proposal has been backed by the US, and the White House claims that Israel has Hamas says a new Gaza ceasefire proposal backed by the US does not satisfy its demands. White House claims that Israel has already signed off on the new proposal.
A US federal appeals court temporarily reinstates Trump-era tariffs, pausing a lower court's ruling that struck them down. The move gives the Trump administration time to fight the decision, as officials vow to find alternative ways to impose tariffs if needed.
The US judge extends order halting the Trump administration's efforts to block Harvard University from enrolling and hosting foreign students.
US Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth joins workouts alongside troops in a ship in Singapore. Hegseth is in Singapore to address the Shangri-La Dialogue, a major Asia security forum.
1, 2, 3, 5. 1, 2, 3, 6.
India's Foreign Secretary Vikram Misri and Deputy NSA Pawan Kapoor meet US Under Secretary of Defense Elbridge Colby. Misri and Kapoor also met business leaders and leading American think tank experts.
At least 16 people killed in India's Maharashtra in rain-related incidents. The state has received heavy rain since the onset of early monsoon 5 days ago.
Thai and Cambodian militaries have agreed to ease border tensions after a Cambodian soldier was killed in a frontier clash. Now this after army chiefs of both nations met and agreed to move troops away from the area.
Royal challengers Bengaluru are one win away from lifting their maiden Indian Premier League title. RCB beat Punjab Kings by 8 wickets to reach the final for the first time since 2016. Our top story on World DNA: in another twist in the tariff tug-of-war, a US federal appeals court is giving the Trump administration some temporary breathing room.
Now this is in a high-stakes trade battle that could impact prices, jobs and your wallet. The court has paused a lower ruling that had struck down most of President Trump's so-called reciprocal tariffs, controversial trade measures that had become a centerpiece of his economic strategy. On Thursday, a federal appeal court temporarily reinstated Trump-era tariffs after a lower court struck them down just 1 day earlier. The decision halts a ruling that declared the tariffs illegal, at least for now.
Now, at the heart of the case are reciprocal tariffs. Donald Trump imposed under a 1970s law called the International Emergency Economic Powers Act, a law that critics say does not give presidents unlimited power to act on trade. The ruling was made by a 3-judge panel, including a Trump appointee, who said the tariffs overstep presidential authority. But by Thursday afternoon, the U.S. Court of Appeals for the Federal Circuit hit pause on that decision.
Well, for U.S. businessmen and consumers, the legal battle matters. The tariff targeting goods like steel, aluminum and electronics, and critics argue that they drove up prices and hurt American companies.
Critics, including state attorneys general and dozens of domestic businesses, say the tariffs are doing irreparable harm and they're fighting to make sure that they stay struck down. The Trump team isn't backing down. If needed, they say they will take it all the way to the Supreme Court. White House officials have gone as far as to call the ruling a judicial tyranny. For consumers, that means uncertainty remains. If the tariffs stand, prices on imported goods could stay high. But if they're permanently struck down, we could see some relief at the checkout.
And for more, our correspondent Susan Tehrani has sent us this report from New York. Take a look.
President Donald Trump's tariffs have been given a temporary lifeline. A federal appeals court judge agreed to pause a lower court's ruling that found parts of President Trump's sweeping tariffs against China and other countries as being illegal. This stay now means that many of those tariffs remain in place while the appeals court reviews the case. The decision also buys the Trump administration critical time to defend what it calls one of the cornerstones of the second Trump White House. The White House had been scrambling to salvage these tariffs after the U.S. Court of International Trade ruled against them earlier. Susan Tehrani reporting from New York for WION The World this one.
Harvard University has got a temporary relief in the tussle with the Trump administration.
A U.S. judge has extended an order blocking the administration from barring Harvard University from enrolling foreign students. It had already been paused last week when the judge issued a temporary restraining order on the same.
Well, the extension came as thousands of Harvard students celebrated their graduation. Students in crimson-fringed gowns cheered as speakers emphasized maintaining a diverse and international student body. Harvard President Alan Garber received one of the biggest cheers when he mentioned international students attending the university's annual graduation ceremony with their families, saying it is as it should be.
The purpose of our time
members of the class of 2025 from down the street, across the country, and around the world. Around the world, just as it should be.
Now, Trump has made Harvard the central target of his campaign against elite U.S. universities, which he has also threatened with funding freezes over what he says is liberal bias and anti-Semitism. In a filing ahead of the hearing, the Trump administration also issued a formal notice of intent to withdraw Harvard's ability to enroll foreign students, kickstarting the process. The filing gave Harvard 30 days to produce evidence showing why it should not be blocked from hosting and enrolling foreign students who make up 27% of Harvard's student body.
However, U.S. District Judge Alison Barrow extended her earlier order blocking the government from enrolling its ban. Judge Barrow said she would later issue a preliminary injunction that gives some protection to international students, while the sides argue over the legality of Trump's stance.
Meanwhile, the U.S. State Department has indicated that the global suspension on visa processing for international students would be brief.
So if you've applied for a visa and you want to, please do. Then if you're not getting an appointment, there's this online system. You continually recheck to see when those spots might open. I can't tell you immediately after some, indeterminate moment of an action, but I can tell you that it's something that would happen perhaps sooner than later.
Tammy Bruce said that prospective students should start checking online for when appointments become available. Secretary of State Marco Rubio had ordered embassies and consulates to pause scheduling appointments for student visas pending new guidelines on checking applicants' social media postings.
And for more on this, our correspondent Susan Teherani has sent us this report from New York. Let's listen to this.
Harvard scored a temporary legal win on Thursday in its battle with the Trump administration over the enrollment of international students. A federal judge extended an order blocking the government from enforcing its ban, allowing Harvard to admit international students, for now at least. But the fight is far from over. Homeland Security lawyers signaled that the administration is now exploring other ways to stop foreign students from enrolling, part of a broader crackdown which has already halted billions in federal funding. The government accuses Harvard University of fostering anti-Semitism and also, in a new filing, collaborating with the Chinese Communist Party. And this case continues to escalate, as I mentioned, far from over. Susan Teherani reporting from New York for WION World is One.
Now, Hamas has said that the new Gaza ceasefire proposal backed by the United States does not meet their demands.
Well, this after U.S. President Trump and West Asia envoy Steve Witkoff submitted the proposal to the Palestinian militant group.
The White House said that Israel has signed off this new proposal before sending it to Hamas. It also added that the discussions are still underway. However, Israel has not confirmed that it has approved this new proposal.
Not so many victories over the past.
I can confirm that Special Envoy Witkoff and the President submitted a ceasefire proposal to Hamas that Israel backed and supported. Israel signed off on this proposal before it was sent to Hamas. I can also confirm that those discussions are continuing, and we hope that a ceasefire in Gaza will take place so we can return all of the hostages home, and that's been a priority from this administration from the beginning.
On the other hand, Hamas has reportedly rejected the ceasefire proposal, saying that the new version does not intend to halt the war.
Well, the Palestinian group said that the ceasefire proposal is considered as a retreat from the previous version. Reports suggest that the new proposal involves a 60 to 70-day truce and the release of 10 living hostages and 9 bodies by Hamas. In exchange, Israel will release Palestinian prisoners in the first week once the ceasefire comes into effect.
Meanwhile, aid and humanitarian services continued in the Gaza Strip. According to Israel's coordinator of government activities in the territories, 76 trucks carrying humanitarian aid entered the Gaza Strip on Thursday. It said that the trucks carried flour and food into the Gaza Strip. It added that the trucks underwent an inspection before entering Gaza through the Kerem Shalom crossing.
Now, in the midst of all of this, chaos ensued at an aid distribution center as private security contractors struggled to control the massive influx of Palestinian refugees. Several refugees scattered after gunshots rang out. However, there was no clarity on who fired the shots and if there were any casualties reported during the incident.
We are a hungry people, and no one cares about us. We have been coming for 2 days and have not received anything. There is shooting and tanks are firing. The distribution method is wrong. The coupon must be brought to every home. We are tired. We are tired, and we are hungry.
Meanwhile, the Palestine Red Crescent could be seen transporting bodies recovering following an Israeli strike in central Gaza. And according to the Palestine medical workers, at least 45 people have been killed after an Israeli airstrike pounded several houses at the Burej camp in central Gaza.
Furthermore, Palestinian health authorities said that the death toll in the Gaza Strip has gone past the 54,200 mark. It also added that over 120,000 people have been injured ever since the Israel-Hamas war broke out back in October 2023. Israel has approved the construction of 22 new Jewish settlements in the occupied West Bank.
It's a move that's drawn praise from right-wing supporters back at home and condemnation from human rights groups and foreign governments.
Taking it to social media, Finance Minister Bezalel Smotrich made the announcement.
According to the Israeli media, the plan includes the the legalization of unauthorized settler outposts and the establishment of new communities in the northern West Bank. The decision is likely to further entrench Israeli presence in the occupied territory that Palestinians seek as part of a future state. Around 700,000 Israeli settlers live among 2.7 million Palestinians in the West Bank and East Jerusalem.
Well, the approval for the settlement comes just days after 8 Western nations, US, UK, France, Canada, Australia, Japan, Spain and New Zealand announced coordinated sanctions against Israeli settlers and organizations involved in West Bank violence. Well, the sanctions include travel bans and asset freezes, targeting individuals accused of attacking Palestinians and destroying property.
And fire and steel shatter the quietness of a secret Ukrainian airfield.
Russian forces launched a devastating strike using the formidable Tornado multiple rocket launcher system, obliterating a hidden site where Ukraine was preparing to launch drone attacks deep inside Russian territory. Well, the attack marks a new escalation in the invisible war of nerves, where every strike is both a tactical blow and a psychological message.
In a stunning and precise offensive, Russian forces deployed their feared Tornado multiple launch rocket system to obliterate a secret Ukrainian airfield. This wasn't just another strike, it was a direct hit on a military base reportedly used to launch drone attacks deep into Russian territory. Kyiv's shadow operations just lost major artillery. Kharkovo airfield is located in Dnipropetrovsk Oblast. It's a small airfield but critical for the Ukrainian Air Force. The airfield also reportedly houses AN-2 jets. This latest strike underscores how Moscow is not just retaliating against Ukrainian drone attacks, it is hunting down Ukraine's critical war infrastructure with increasing accuracy. The tornado doesn't just strike, it annihilates. Designed for large-scale saturation bombardment, the Tornado S variant is a technological monster. With a range exceeding 120 kilometers, guided precision and a destructive payload, it delivers hell in coordinated salvos. Intelligence suggests that the Ukrainian airfield was a launchpad for long-range drone missions aimed at Russian fuel depots and command posts. It was not just a military asset, it was a symbol of Ukraine's asymmetric resilience. Now it's severely damaged. Despite billions in aid and cutting-edge equipment supplied to Kyiv, from Patriot systems to NASAMS, none stopped the Tornado barrage. The Russian MLRs either slipped through gaps or overwhelmed defense grids, designed more for ballistic missiles than rapid-fire barrages. Earlier, Russia claimed that its Iskander missiles had destroyed US-made Patriot defense systems in Ukraine. As Ukraine scrambles to patch its aerial blind spots, Moscow is sending a loud, unmistakable message. No place is safe. Bureau Report, WION World is One.
Now, Poland is preparing for an intense presidential runoff on the 1st of June. Ahead of the critical vote on Sunday, analysts and political pundits are decoding what the country's voting pattern is.
And there seems to be a trend where political ideologies overlap with voters' gender. Well, according to findings observed after the first round of elections on May 18th, analysts say that men and women have opposing political leanings, with men usually voting for the right and women being more left-leaning.
Young men tend to vote for Confederation, far-right party, at least in these presidential elections. In the first round, the candidate of this party received the most votes from young men. According to IPSOS data, it was over 47%. These men voted for Sławomir Mencen. On the other hand, women, here their distribution of votes is, women from Generation Z, it is more complex. They distribute these votes a little differently, but the left collects the majority of them.
Among women, Gen Z more specifically votes for left-leaning candidates. For the younger voters, discrimination, abortion rights and other kind of inclusive social messaging are important electoral issues.
I hope that the future president will rise to the occasion and not be a person who discriminates. I hope they will give equal opportunities and be someone we can rely on, who will stand up for people rather than against them.
Well, the election on Sunday is a close race between Warsaw Mayor and pro-EU candidate Rafal and his rival Trump supporter Karol Nawrocki. Now, according to popular polls, Rafal is leading with 1 point over his right-wing rival. All right, and India has called on Dhaka to hold early, inclusive and fair elections.
This comes against the backdrop of demands by political parties for holding elections by December and widespread protests. On Thursday, India's External Affairs Ministry said that Bangladesh must honor the will of its people through transparent and timely elections.
On Bangladesh, Manas, we have articulated our position very clear as far as elections in Bangladesh is concerned, and we have done so consistently. Bangladesh needs to ascertain the will and mandate of the people by holding an inclusive, fair and free elections at an early date.
Well, protests have become a daily fixture on the streets of Dhaka. From student rallies to worker strikes, the capital is brimming with unrest. As calls for elections grow louder, government employees, opposition parties and civil society groups have mobilized en masse, demanding a clear roadmap to molds.
The sooner the politics become normal, the better for us. No matter who comes to power, we want to spend our days in peace. All we want is to come out to the street safely and to spend our days in peace. That's it.
Now, the political situation in Bangladesh has grown more volatile since the ousting of Prime Minister Sheikh Hasina in August last year.
Interim caretaker Mohammad Yunus has urged political unity, but his timeline for reforms and delayed elections have fueled more unrest.
Wednesday alone saw more than 6 major demonstrations across Dhaka, ranging from Islamist rallies to leftist counter-protests. For many Bangladeshis, the prolonged unrest and unclear political timeline, it's taking a toll on daily life and the national morale.
আমরা চাই অতি দ্রুত 10 মাস পার হয়ে গেল
I used to leave for school 1 hour before it starts because it takes 45 minutes at best to reach my campus. But nowadays, 1 hour is not enough for me to get there. You'll see either a severe traffic jam at Gulistan or a protest somewhere blocking the whole road. It's disturbing. You can't tell anyone anything about this as it's an independent country. So people are taking to the streets with whatever demand they have.
With tensions high in the country, the question remains: will Yunus-led administration heed to domestic and international calls for timely elections?
Thank you. আমি ওর সঙ্গে আছি আপনার দরকার হবে না এখন আসলো
And with that, it's time now for a short break.
But don't go anywhere. On the other side of World DNA, Indian Air Force Chief Air Marshal Amarpreet Singh has raised concerns on delays in the defence procurement process, citing practice of signing unrealistic contracts. We're going to get you all the details on that on the other side of the show.
Also on the other side, Pakistani Prime Minister has admitted that his country's armed forces were caught off guard during Operation Sindur as India struck several air bases with the BrahMos missiles. More details on the other side.
This week on the West Asia Post. As Gaza faces one of the world's biggest war-induced hunger crisis, Benjamin Netanyahu's claim on Palestinian prisoners shocks the world. Also on the show, we talk about Erdogan's move to extend his stay at Turkey's presidential office and Kuwait's decision to strip thousands of citizenship status.
Watch the West Asia Post with me, Radi Francis, only on WION. World is One.
To bring the benefits of the Subhash Chandra Show to your educational institution, teachers and students, send an invitation to Juhi Jha at juhi@such.org.in.
WION, India's global voice, the channel that brings you the biggest stories from across the world through India's lens. Now available in more than 190 countries worldwide. Because we believe that the world is one. Watch us in Africa, Europe, USA and Canada, South America, Asia Pacific, Middle East and North African regions. Also available on these digital platforms across the world. WION, World is One.
The Earth is sending distress signals. Wildfires, droughts, and melting glaciers. Can we reverse the damage? Explore the harrowing effects of climate change. It's a wake-up call. Global emergency. Climate Tracker on WION World is One.
Wow, folks, we all know the story.
As makers announce the release date of The Devil Wears Prada 2, we take a look at all the upcoming remakes, reboots, and sequels. Dive into the world of music with a never-seen-before auction. And find out why baby blue is the color of the year. All this and much more with me, Diksha Bisla, on WION at these times.
Welcome back to World DNA. Thank you so much for staying with us. Lots lined up for you on this side of the show as well. Let's get started with the headlines first.
Hamas says a new Gaza ceasefire proposal backed by the United States does not satisfy its demands. White House claims that Israel has already signed off on the new proposal.
US Federal Appeals Court temporarily reinstates Trump-era tariffs, pausing a lower court's ruling that struck them down. The move gives the Trump administration time to fight the decision, as officials vow to find alternate ways to impose tariffs if needed.
US judge extends order halting the Trump administration's efforts to block Harvard University from enrolling and hosting foreign students.
US Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth joins workouts alongside troops on a ship in Singapore. Hegseth is in Singapore to address the Shangri-La Dialogue, that's a major Asia security forum.
5, 1, 2, 3, 6, 1, 2, 3, 7, 8.
India's Foreign Secretary Vikram Misri and Deputy NSA Pawan Kapoor meet US Under Secretary of Defense Eldridge Colby. Misri and Kapoor also met business leaders and leading American think tank experts.
At least 16 people killed in India's Maharashtra in rain-related incidents. The state has received heavy rain since the onset of early monsoon 5 days ago.
Thai and Cambodian militaries have agreed to ease border tensions after a Cambodian soldier was killed in a frontier clash. Now this after army chiefs of both nations met and agreed to move troops away from the area.
Asia-Pacific markets fell as US tariff uncertainty, inflation fears and slowing economic data rattled investors. Japan's inflation rose to its highest level since early 2023, adding pressure on rate decisions.
"22 days after India struck 9 terror camps across the line of control, the Pakistani Prime Minister is finally admitting that his country's armed forces were caught off guard during Operation Sindur.
During his visit to Azerbaijan, Shehbaz Sharif said that India hit Pakistan with its BrahMos missiles before Pakistani forces could launch an attack on India.
On 9th and 10th night, we decided to respond in a measured fashion to Indian aggression, and we had decided that at 4:30 in the morning after Fajr prayers, Pakistan armed forces led very ably by our Field Marshal, Chief Army Staff sitting here, Syed Asim Munir, to teach a lesson to our enemy. But before that hour reached, India again launched missile attacks, BrahMos, and hit Pakistan's various provinces, including airport in Rawalpindi and other places.
Responding to the deadly terror attack in Pahalgam, India struck 9 terror camps across the line of control. Of the 9 sites that were targeted, 5 were in Pakistan-occupied Kashmir, 2 sites each were in Muzaffarabad and Kotli, and 1 in Bhimber and 4 in Pakistan's Punjab province.
While India stated that Pakistan Army was not the target, the Pakistan Army went ahead with indiscriminate attacks that were repelled by India's air defense systems.
Now, following this, New Delhi launched a counter-action carrying out precision strikes deep inside Pakistan, striking 11 military targets.
In Azerbaijan, the Pakistani Prime Minister was referring to these strikes. India's decisive action prompted Pakistan to seek peace, with the DGMO Pakistan initiating contact with the Indian side and agreeing to halt all firing and military action on land, air and sea, bringing an end to a 3-day-long confrontation.
सिंदूर केवल एक कार्रवाई नहीं, पाकिस्तान के लिए वो सबक था जो उसने दशकों से नहीं सीखा.
India's diplomatic outreach after Operation Sindur continues, with multi-party delegations reiterating India's commitment to combat terrorism across the world.
The delegation led by BJP MP Ravi Shankar Prasad has arrived in Denmark. The delegation concluded its diplomatic outreach visit to France and Italy. Now in Denmark, the team is scheduled to interact with Danish parliamentarians in Copenhagen. It will also meet political leaders, members of the media and the Indian diaspora to share the country's position on global terror challenges.
Now, during its Italy leg of the visit, the Indian delegation engaged with Italian leaders and strategic experts to underscore India's zero-tolerance policy on cross-border terrorism. The delegation had visited France before this, where it received a warm welcome from the Indian diaspora.
We have gathered here to celebrate our victory today. The last time we met here was to protest and demand justice for the victims of Pahalgam. We have full faith on the Indian Army. The India of today is a self-reliant one. This is a victory for us.
I have been living in France for the last 21 years. We have gathered here to thank India, the government, the administration, and foremost, we want to thank our armed forces. This event is to thank our forces.
The all-party delegation led by BJP leader Baijan Panda visited Diriyah in Saudi Arabia, a UNESCO World Heritage Site and mud town known for its traditional mud brick architecture.
Another delegation led by NCP and SCP lawmaker Supriya Sule concluded its South Africa visit as they met local politicians, think tanks and influencers at India House in Pretoria.
Well, earlier, the multi-party delegation met African National Congress leaders in Johannesburg. In their meeting, the Indian delegation noted that South Africa's support for India. Now, for more, our correspondent Calden Ogmu has sent us this report from Johannesburg. Take a look.
Multi-party delegation from India says they had a fruitful and a very meaningful discussion with the South African counterpart. They met all important stakeholders and visited Cape Town, Pretoria and Johannesburg. The Indian delegation said that South Africa is committed to supporting India in zero tolerance against terror, and South Africa is going to stand very strongly with India. This is Calden Ogmu from Johannesburg, South Africa for WION World is One.
Indian Air Force Air Chief Marshal Amarpreet Singh has raised concerns about delays in the defence procurement process.
Now, urging the industry to not make promises if it cannot meet the deadlines. Speaking at the Confederation of the Indian Industry Annual Business Summit in New Delhi, the Air Chief Marshal highlighted the systemic failure and questioned the practice of signing unrealistic contracts.
Timelines is a big issue. That is where that Vachan part comes in. So once a timeline is given, not a single project that I can think of has been completed on time. So this is something where we have to look at. Why should we promise something which cannot be achieved? While signing the contract itself, some of the times we are sure that it is not going to come up. But we just signed the contract.
He also stressed the critical need to equip the armed forces with essential tools and technology, now rather than waiting for years to address the pressing challenges they face.
Next 10 years, we will have certain more output from the industry, Indian industry. We have from the DRDO. But what is required today is required today. So we need to quickly get our act together, maybe get into some quick Make in India programs so that we can achieve that now ready part of it, while Design in India continues to produce results in the near future or maybe later.
Referring to the success of Operation Sindur, Air Chief Marshal underscored the rapid evolvement of modern warfare driven by advancements in drone technology and emphasized the need to promptly integrate these innovations into the armed forces to maintain a strategic edge.
Now, his remarks came a few months after he publicly expressed displeasure over the delay in the delivery of Tejas Mk1A fighter jets by Hindustan Aeronautics Limited, the first batch of which was expected to be handed over by March 2024.
Meanwhile, Defence Agency DRDO Chief Samir V. Kamath has expressed hope that India's defence exports will increase after Operation Sindur, as indigenous military equipment has been war tested now.
Operation Sindur ke baad.
After Operation Sindur, I am very hopeful that defence exports will increase because these equipment has got war tested. So countries will show interest in acquiring them.
लेने में काफी interest दिखाएंगे.
Well, this has India strategically deployed its homegrown Akash missile system and Akash Tir air defence system during the recent 4-day military standoff with Pakistan, showcasing its indigenous defence capabilities.
The DRDO chief has also highlighted the recent approval by Defence Minister Rajnath Singh for the execution model of India's 5th generation stealth fighter jet, the Advanced Medium Combat Aircraft.
By 2034, the development phase is expected to be completed, and after that, production should start from 2035. The first prototype flight will be ready by the end of 2029.
Ready to fly will be by end of 2029.
And relentless monsoon fury in Maharashtra, where heavy rain over the past 5 days has claimed at least 16 lives.
Well, the state has been battered by intense downpours since May 24th, following the early onset of the monsoon.
Now, according to a state government report, the rain-related tragedies include landslides, lightning strikes and the collapse of trees and structures. Pune district recorded 3 fatalities, while Thane, Latur and Bandra reported 2 deaths each. Almost every region of Maharashtra has felt the impact, with emergency services on alert as the rain continues.
Meanwhile, in the national capital region, a different kind of weather drama unfolded. Strong winds and intense dust storms swept through Delhi NCR yesterday and plunged parts of the city into brief chaos. Visibility dropped, traffic slowed, and residents braced themselves as the skies opened up with heavy rainfall, bringing much needed relief from the scorching heat. Now, the Indian Meteorological Department has issued an orange alert for Delhi and the surrounding areas, warning of more rain and gusty winds reaching up to 60 kilometers per hour of speed. Now, as a precaution, Air India has issued an advisory for flights departing from Indira Gandhi International Airport due to the inclement weather.
Remarkably, this May is now Delhi's wettest on record, with 186.4 millimeters of rainfall, surpassing the previous high of 165 millimeters set back in 2008.
Yesterday was International Mount Everest Day.
Every year, hundreds of people begin their journey to scale the highest summit, but in recent years, climbing Everest has become an administrative challenge for the authorities there.
The world's tallest peak marks the ultimate test of endurance, but now the mountain is facing a different kind of challenge. Overcrowding, unpredictable weather, and environmental damage have pushed Nepal to call for action. This week, climbers from around the world gathered in Kathmandu to discuss how to protect the mountain and those who climb it.
Nepal's tourism minister Badri Prasad Pandey told an international gathering that the government has a duty to both protect the Himalayas and support mountaineers.
Mountaineers described chaotic conditions during this year's climbing season caused by large crowds, bad weather, and even a flu outbreak at the base camp.
The weather was very challenging as it would frequently change without any warning. It was the main problem this year with the traffic management plus the summit push.
Climbing Mount Everest has become a deadly experience for some. In 2023, at least 18 climbers died trying to conquer the peak. Last year, at least 8 mountaineers lost their lives. This year, at least 2 climbers have lost their lives so far.
Well, last year, Nepal sent a team of soldiers and Sherpas to remove 11 tons of garbage and several dead bodies from the Everest. Yet, despite the growing risks, permits continue to be issued with few restrictions as the mountain's popularity grows. So do the calls for better regulations and greater responsibility. Now, but protecting its future requires effort from the ground up.
And China's electric vehicle market is undergoing intensified competition.
This as major automakers continue slashing prices to maintain market share in an increasingly saturated environment.
Industry leader BYD recently launched significant discounts across its lower-end electric and hybrid models, with some price cuts nearing 30%. This move has triggered similar actions from other domestic automakers, further intensifying the ongoing price war.
Well, the average retail price of a car in China has dropped by approximately 19% over the last 2 years, reaching about $22,900. Price declines have been most dramatic among hybrids and battery electric vehicles, with reductions of 27% and 21% respectively. Now, in contrast, internal combustion engine vehicles experienced a smaller 18% drop.
Now, experts suggest that while new energy vehicle sales continue to grow at double-digit rates, the market itself has not expanded significantly since 2018. Instead, the rise in EV adoption is largely replacing traditional fuel-powered cars. Analysts warn that this supply-heavy strategy is adding to broader deflationary pressures in China's economy, which is already grappling with sluggish consumer demand and uneven recovery post-COVID. Industry observers also note that competition is particularly severe among lower-cost models, which are critical to the mass market. Regulators have voiced concern about the competition, intense, unproductive price battles that could destabilize the country. Comparisons are being made to China's real estate sector, where overexpansion and debt led to major defaults like Evergrande.
Well, globally, China's EV pricing is raising alarms. The European Union and the US have imposed heavy tariffs on Chinese EV imports, citing unfair subsidies. Still, Chinese brands like BYD continue to gain ground overseas. Now, just recently surpassing Tesla in European sales for the first time. Analysts expect the price war to persist, with limited prospects for near-term relief as automakers prioritize volume and survival over profitability. And world number 1, Yannick Sinner, brought the curtain down on Richard Gasquet's 23-year-long career on his home soil in France.
The top seed defeated the Frenchman in the straight sets to advance to the third round of Roland Garros.
Now, making his 22nd appearance at the clay court major in Paris, 38-year-old Gasquet couldn't keep up in a 1 hour 58-minute match, but the French veteran showed flashes of brilliance. He used his trademark one-handed backhand to earn 3 break points at 5-3 in the first set. However, top seed Yannick Sinner saved them all. On court, Philippe Chatrier. Now, Sinner didn't face another break point and cruised to a dominant 6-3, 6-0, 6-4 victory. With the win, the world number one extended his Grand Slam winning streak to 16 matches. The